After my time with Cronos The New Dawn, I truly believe that this is one of the best games of the year, and one of the best survival horror games that came out in the recent times. I can easily say, at least from more of a gameplay wise, that Cronos The Dawn is just a lot better than something like Silent Hill F, which I did play recently, and I did enjoy for the most part, but overall, the combat and the enemies that you fight get really repetitive and annoying. So that's why in today's video I'm going to be giving Cronos The New Dawn a little review and comparing some of the things that just makes it a lot better compared to Silent Hill F. So without further ado, I'm going to start the video. In Cronos The New Dawn, you play as a main character called the Traveler, who is set on a mission to travel back to 1980 Poland, where an outbreak of a disease called the Change is happening. And this disease pretty much makes humans into monsters and making them merge with each other, becoming stronger and stronger. These monsters are called the Orphans, and they're going to be the main villains you'll be fighting throughout the entire game. Now, the story's not super clear when you start the game, but the more and more you play, the more you realize what's happening with the story, the plot, and what happened in Poland in the 1980s. I like how the story and plot feels more of like a mystery that you slowly unsolve throughout the game. I find that to be really interesting and captivated my interest throughout the entire game. Now, comparing the story and how it plays to Silent Hill F, I would say that Silent Hill F's main narrative, I would say, is a little bit better, but following that story is very confusing. This is actually something I forgot to mention in my review. Even though the story of Silent Hill F is really good, it's just kind of hard to follow around. Even after beating the game, there was a lot of parts I was so confused with, so I had to search up. Unlike Cronos, where it feels like it's more digestible for anyone who plays the game to understand what's actually going on. You can really understand what's going on, especially the different endings. The different endings of Silent Hill F is kind of harder to understand because their meaning is so much deeper and the plot goes way deeper than what it really shows. Unlike Cronos, where it's more to the face and it really explains it better just by showing cutscenes and just playing the game and even reading some of the notes. Now, the main gameplay, this is where Cronos shines way better than Silent Hill F. Now let's start talking about the combat. The main combat in Cronos The New Dawn feels really solid and punchy. Killing enemies in these games feels really satisfying. And there's a pretty decent selection of different guns that you can find and unlock. And they all feel really good. Some can charge up, some can just shoot normally but do more damage. It's really up to your preference and what you want to run. I love how this game gives you more options on how you want to play and kill the enemies. You can also shoot grenades, you can burn enemies so they don't merge, and even later on they give you a railgun that shoots like a huge black hole that does a ton of damage. It's really fun to use. You can also hit and stomp enemies, kind of reminiscing of Dead Space, which this game has a huge inspiration of if you haven't told already. But besides all that though, I really wish there was a little bit more variety on guns. As this is, like the future, so I'll expect them to have more futuristic tech, as in futuristic guns. Because you're pretty much in the future using just like upgraded pistols and stuff, which is not like a big deal. I just wish there was more variety in like futuristic guns besides like just the railgun with a black hole. But besides that though, the guns still feel really good. They look cool and they play really cool, so can't really complain. Now with Silent Hill F, there's no guns, which is not a bad thing. Melee focused games can work out really well. But in Silent Hill F's case, it just doesn't. The combat feels like it wants to be a Souls-like really badly, but at the same time, it feels like it wants to be different. It feels like the combat doesn't know what it wants to be, and that makes the combat very frustrating and overall just repetitive. A lot of the time, the dodging and hit registration felt really clunky and awkward, and it felt like it had no impact to every hit. And back to what I was talking about weapons, there's not many choices for weapons. I think there's around like 4 to 5 melee weapons in this game. And all of them, will eventually break, so you have to, fix them or get new ones. And that just really makes the combat and just overall gameplay more repetitive when you're just using most of the same melee weapons over and over again and just making them break and then have to get new ones or fixing it. It can be really annoying. I did think the focus mechanic for the combat was okay. It wasn't like super good, but it did spice up the gameplay a little bit. Also, you end up fighting a lot of the same enemies over and over in this game, it feels like. There's barely any variety or different ones, unlike Cronos, where there's more variety in the enemies, and they can also merge and get new abilities. Like sometimes they can merge together, become more stronger, and sometimes add new abilities like shooting in acid or just moving overall faster. Now the exploration in Cronos I feel like is also a lot better. The exploration in Cronos The New Dawn is actually really good, and it feels like it rewards you a lot better than silenthillf does. In Cronos, you can get rewarded by finding energy, armor cores, ammo, valuable things to sell, certain items that can open doors, collectibles like getting cats, which is peak. You can find notes or audio logs, which help explain what's going on in the story and in the world of Cronos The New Dawn. You can find other collectibles, like the 10 different comic books, and even sometimes you can find new weapons. So yeah, overall, Cronos really does reward you for exploring. Even though the game is very linear, there's still a lot of different paths you can take in each level, which can reward you very well. It was actually so good that a lot of the levels I would just run back through just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Because exploring is really that important and can really help a lot with upgrades and just helping collectibles like, petting cats, because, that's his peak. Come on. Now with silenthillf, the exploration felt a little bit worse, as there was no new collectibles that you can get in silenthillf that at least I know of. A lot of times you explore around, it was either a dead end corner, or sometimes it wasn't that much. Like, oh, maybe you would get like more bandages, which is alright, but then again, inventory system is kind of annoying, so you're gonna have to manage to find space for it. And overall, the upgrade system and the shrine system I wasn't really the biggest fan of. Like, sure, the upgrades helped, but they just kind of felt mediocre and less diverse like Cronos had. Because with silenthillf, you can't like upgrade your weapons. You can really just upgrade, like your health, your stamina, and your focus meter. Those are really the only three you can really upgrade. And also you can have more slots for like your little perks. But then again, those perks are not really the best, and they're just okay overall. Now, something I really want to go over is the inventory management in each game. I feel like in Cronos The New Dawn, the management in the inventory is less annoying, and it feels like they want you to be more prepared on what you want to use. Also, they do give you a little bit more inventory space, and you can upgrade it to get more inventory space. I know silenthillf, you can also upgrade to get more inventory space, but it feels a lot harder to find an inventory upgrade, as it's something you have to pick up in the game and not something you just collect overall and upgrade. Like in Cronos, you get enough armor cores, you can upgrade your inventory and your health. In silenthillf, if you want to upgrade your inventory, you have to find a certain thing in the game. And when I was playing, I could only find one of those, so I was really struggling with the inventory system and ended up holding a lot of garbage I didn't need. Now the atmosphere, I believe here, they are both extremely good, but it's also hard to compare since they're very completely different atmospheres. Silent Hill takes place in 60s Japan, and then Cronos The New Dawn takes place in a futuristic sci-fi setting. So it is very difficult to compare them when they're both completely different, but I do believe they are both just as good for what they're going for. But I do believe that Cronos The New Dawn's atmosphere is a little bit more scary, and they do try to attempt to scare you more. Unlike silenthillf, where a lot of times I didn't really feel that scared, especially when the combat is so outrageously annoying that it kind of made it less scary, especially when you just beat the shell of anything in your way. But both of them atmospheres, I'd say, are on the same level in how good they are. Even though they're completely different, I can't really compare them too much since they're going for completely different settings and stories and vibes overall. I still gotta say they're both really good. But Cronos Dawn is a little bit more scarier, in my opinion at least. You can debate and say that silenthillf is scarier because of the atmosphere, and you can debate that Cronos The New Dawn's atmosphere is a lot scarier. I think both just hit the nail really well on the atmosphere, so there's not too much complaining about either of them. Another thing I quickly mentioned is the soundtracks. Now, both of the soundtracks of these games are also pretty solid, and they both fit the vibe of what they're going for really well. So something, again, I cannot really compare, but both are great, just like the atmosphere. Now for the puzzles. Now for me in Cronos The New Dawn, I feel like the puzzles in the game kind of just feel pretty easy, and there's not too many puzzles, at least that make you think. And this is where silenthillf is a little bit better, is with the puzzles. The puzzles in silenthillf really make you sit back and think, unlike where Cronos is very simple and easy to get the answer to everyone, which is not a bad thing, because Cronos I don't think is really going for very puzzle heavy gameplay, as it's focused more on actual gunplay and exploration. So I can totally understand why the puzzles are not too hard and why there's not too many of them, which is totally fine. But if you're looking for actual challenging puzzles and more of them, then yeah, Cronos Dawn doesn't really have that many, and they're pretty easy, unlike Silent Hill F's where they really make you think, and there's plenty more of them. Now for the bosses. I think the bosses in both of the game are pretty good, but I do enjoy Cronos The New Dawn's bosses a little bit more just because the combat's not frustrating and the combat's actually fun and rewarding. Unlike Silent Hills, where a lot of the enemies can feel very spongy and annoying to fight. But even then, the bosses in Silent Hill F are still pretty good. And Cronos The New Dawn, of course, I think has better bosses, but I think both games have great bosses, honestly. And again, something I can't really compare too much of, except I would obviously prefer Cronos' bosses more. But yeah. So overall, I believe that Cronos The New Dawn is a better game, gameplay-wise, exploration-wise, and a little bit other feature-wise, like the inventory system's a lot better, I believe, upgrading system's a lot better, there's a lot more variety to the enemies, and that's why I really think Cronos The Dawn is a lot better. And there are some things that Silent Hill F do a little bit better, like the main narrative or how the puzzles are a lot better. But yeah, I still think both are pretty solid games, but I would still say that Cronos The New Dawn is a lot better. So for me, Cronos is around an 8 out of 10, and Silent Hill F is more of a 7.5 out of 10. But yeah, that'll be the end of today's video. It's been Kaya TV. Hope you guys like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll hope to see you in the next one.